All right, everybody, we have finally at long last made it to chapter 3. Now, I know I'm technically I could have just said all this last week, but better late than never, I suppose. So for this week, what I wanted to do was I wanted to go through, for this video, what I wanted to do was go through the Grammatica Latina for this chapter, because this is an important chapter because what we get introduced here is verbs. So for this chapter, we have more or less three new concepts. We have the subject, or what's called the nominativus. So we have the subject, so a word that is in the nominative case, that's what nominativus stands for, nominative case, is the subject of the sentence. And I believe, and we've already gone over that specific thing, the subject in the difference between nominative and genitive in chapter 2. This is more or less a review. But the nominativus is more than just simply the one whom the sentence is about. It's also the one doing the action, or the one that the verb refers to. Then you have the accusativus, which is our first case, which is the object of the sentence. So we have the subject of the sentence, the one doing the action, and the object of the sentence, the one on which the action is being done. That's more or less how you should think of these two cases. Then you have the verbum. So we have three concepts here. We have the nominative, the accusative, and the verb. And so here's generally how this works. So we have sentences like Julia cantat. Julia is the subject, you can tell, because of the fact that Julia is a feminine word, and it simply has that little a there. There's no macron, it's just a little a. And so we have Julia cantat. Julia sings. Marcus, we can tell that's the nominative because there's the us at the end, and Marcus is a masculine word. So we know that ridet refers to Marcus. So Marcus ridet means Marcus is laughing. Then Julius dormit. We know that Julius is the subject because of the fact that there is another us as at the ending of the word. If this was Julii dormit, it wouldn't really make any sort of sense, but it would mean something like he sleeps of Julius, or something along those lines. In other words, it would be a nonsense. It would be gibberish. It wouldn't mean anything. So we know that Julius, it's Julius sleeps because Julius is the subject, and we know it's a subject because Julius ends in us. So we see cantat verbum est, or cantat verbum est. Cantat is a verb. Cantat, ridet, dormit, tria verba sunt. Cantat, so cantat, ridet, dormit are three verbs. So we have all sorts of different examples of verbs, and you'll notice here that they end in at, or or et, or it, basically at one of these three letters, a, e, t, or it. But you can tell that they're verbs because of the fact that they all end in t. In a chapter or two, we'll be able to get to where they end in nt. So instead of cantat, it will be cantant, pulsant, plorant, vocant, so on and so forth, or vident, respondent, etc. What that means is that, so cantat, so Julia cantat means Julia sings. If we had, if this was cantant with an n before the t, then it would be Julia et Marcus cantant, or Julia and Marcus sing, because cantant is plural. But let's just focus on this for right now. We have all these little simple sentences displayed for us right here. Then we have nominativus, accusativus, verbum. So the nominative, the accusative, and the verb. So in these sentences, these are the people doing the actions. In these sentences, with these words, these are the ones doing the action. These are the ones who have the action being done to them, since they're the object, and this is the action. So, Marcus Iuliam pulsat. Marcus, he's the subject because it's the nominative, and so there's an us here. Marcus pulsat. Marcus pulsat. He punches. Who does he punch? He punches Iuliam. You can see that Iulia is the subject, is the object, because it says Iuliam. If you see the am or the um, then that means that it's accusative, and if it's accusative, that means that it's the one that the subject is doing the action on. So even if you switched around the words and it was, I don't know, pulsat Marcus Iuliam, or pulsat Iuliam Marcus, or even Iuliam pulsat Marcus, it would still mean Marcus punches Julia. All right, so if we continue down, we can see basically the same thing. So Aemilia quintum interrogat. Aemilia asks quintum. All of this together, so we can see Aemilia, because of the fact that it's just an a, it's not Aemiliam or Aemilii. It's Aemilia. Aemilia asks quintum. Aemilia asks quintum. We can tell that quintum is the one that she is asking because it ends in a um. So the one last thing I want to go to throughout this with this video is just simply talk about a couple of the different words. So we have words like pulsat, and with pulsat means hit or punch, and with words like pulsat or videt or vocat, you kind of have to have an accusative word, because you have to have an object, because if I said Marcus punches or hits, that doesn't really mean much. It doesn't really mean much to hit, unless you're saying that you're hitting something. If you could say that I punch what? I punch the wall, I punch books. What are you punching? However, you could say Marcus is crying without having to have an object. And in fact, crying would never have an object. The same goes with venit. Furthermore, you could just simply ask, furthermore, you could just simply have respondet. Why? Because these words like pulsat, videt, vocat, and to a certain extent interrogat, are all transitive. That's an important word, transitive. Now, it's not a word I'm going to test you on. However, it is a word that you need to learn for homework. What a transitive verb is it is a verb that needs an object in order to make sense. Words like plorat or venit don't need an object in order to make sense, because you can say Julius comes, and that just simply means Julius comes. Another way you could, another verb is run. You could say Gerald runs. That doesn't at all need another word in order to sort of tell you what it is all about. And so these words are called intransitive words, intransitive verbs, verbs that don't need an object. All right, so that should be all the explanation you need for your homework and for this for your homework assignment, and for the understanding how verbs work in this chapter. That should be everything. I'll see you guys in the next video.